There's a silence that follows the end of a marriage, a silence heavier for men than anyone ever admits. It's not the sound of heartbreak. It's the sound of loss echoing through an identity that once felt solid, now collapsing under the weight of emptiness. When a man loses his marriage, he doesn't just lose a partner. He loses the structure that defined his purpose, the rhythm that gave his days meaning. The world doesn't pause for him. It doesn't comfort him. It simply moves on. And he learns, too late, that the emotional economy of love is never balanced, that the man pays a different kind of price, one that cuts deeper, slower, longer. Society tells him to move on, to be strong, to rebuild. But strength becomes a prison when it's the only thing he's allowed to feel. He looks around, searching for what's left, and finds nothing that resembles home. The woman may walk away with support, with sympathy, with a narrative that understands her pain. The man walks away with silence. His story is not one of healing, but of disappearance. He becomes invisible, even to himself. And in that invisibility lies the cruelest truth, that men are taught to invest in permanence, to build their sense of self around what they can protect, what they can provide. But when the marriage ends, the foundation they built their lives upon shatters, leaving them suspended between the past and the void. He loses not only the love, but the identity that came with it. Husband, protector, provider. Title stripped away until all that's left is a man who doesn't know who he is when he's not needed. The world calls it equality, but deep down, in the quiet hours when the loneliness hits hardest, he knows. He lost more than love. He lost a version of himself that made sense, and no one warned him what it would cost to get it back. For most men, marriage is not just love, it's salvation. It's the illusion that life finally has direction, that chaos can be replaced with purpose. The vows become a promise not just to another person, but to stability itself. He believes that by giving everything, his time, his work, his loyalty, he will be safe from the loneliness that once haunted him. He builds his world around that belief, around the quiet idea that love, once secured, will stay. It's the story he's told since childhood. Protect her, provide for her, and she will never leave. He buys into that myth completely. He pours his youth into careers that drain him, sacrifices friendships, hobbies, even health, thinking that the reward will be lasting peace, a home, a family, a legacy. The illusion grows stronger over time because it feels good to believe it. It feels noble. It feels masculine. And yet, beneath that comfort lies dependency, a kind of emotional blindness. He begins to confuse being loved with being useful, being respected with being needed. Every sacrifice he makes becomes a thread in the web that holds him captive to that illusion. When small cracks appear, when affection fades, when words grow sharp, when distance replaces closeness, he tells himself it's temporary. That good men endure, that true love survives storms. He ignores the unease, the signs that her eyes no longer light up the same way, that her silence carries meaning. Because to admit the truth would mean shattering the dream he spent years protecting. So he stays. He gives more, hoping to fix what's dying. And the more he gives, the less of himself remains. The illusion was never about love. It was about control, about keeping chaos away by believing that devotion guarantees security. But love does not trade in guarantees. It never has. Still, men cling to that illusion like it's the last shelter they have from the storm. Because the truth, that love can vanish no matter how much you give, is unbearable. And so they keep pretending that if they work harder, love will come back. That if they stay strong, nothing will fall apart. But everything does. It doesn't happen all at once. The ending never does. It starts with small silences that used to be filled with laughter, with glances that no longer meet, with words that sound polite but carry no warmth. The house feels colder, though nothing has changed. He notices her pulling away, not physically, but emotionally, slowly retreating into a place he can't reach. She begins to speak differently, less like a lover and more like someone fulfilling a duty. The dinners become shorter. The touches become routine. The smiles become rehearsed. He tells himself it's stress, exhaustion, a temporary phase. But deep down, he knows the light is dying. The illusion he built his life upon begins to crack in quiet ways. He feels it when she no longer asks about his day, when she no longer waits up for him, when she turns away at night. The warmth that once made the world bearable becomes a stranger's indifference. He senses something unspoken, a decision already made in her heart, though her lips have not yet said it. He tries to fix it the only way he knows how, by doing more. More flowers, more patience, more effort. But each act of devotion only seems to make her colder, because love, once gone, doesn't return through logic or persistence. It slips away quietly, leaving behind the ghost of what once was. He starts losing sleep. He starts questioning himself. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? He doesn't realize that this is the moment every man fears, the slow death of meaning. The home he built begins to feel like a museum of old happiness. He walks through the rooms and feels memories clinging to the walls like shadows. And the cracks widen. Arguments replace affection. Silence becomes louder than words. He begins to sense that he is being prepared for something. A conversation that will end everything. A sentence that will rearrange his life forever. The realization grows heavy inside him. She's already gone, just waiting for the right moment to leave. And yet, he keeps pretending not to see it. Because admitting it means facing a truth too devastating to bear. That the woman who once made his world whole is now the one unraveling it. And then one day it happens. Not with a storm, but with a whisper. She says she can't do this anymore. The words fall gently, almost kindly, but they land like glass, shattering across the floor. He stares at her, searching for some trace of the woman he once knew. Some flicker of warmth that might mean this is a mistake. But her eyes are already somewhere else, calm, distant, resolved. The world tilts. Time slows. In that moment, he realizes that nothing he says will change what's coming. She's already gone. The home they built, the plans they made, the dreams they shared, they dissolve in front of him like smoke in cold air. He feels everything at once: anger, confusion, denial, heartbreak. But above it all, an emptiness too heavy to name. She speaks of fairness, of self-discovery, of needing to find herself. Words that sound noble, but pierce like knives. He wants to scream that he gave her everything, that he built his life around her, that he doesn't know how to exist without her. But no words come out. He just stands there, silent, watching the world he built collapse in slow motion. The nights that follow are endless. The bed feels like a grave. The quiet hum of the refrigerator becomes unbearable. Every corner of the house smells like loss. He walks through his life like a ghost, replaying memories that now feel cruel. He sees her laugh in the kitchen, feels her hand on his chest, hears her voice calling his name, all echoes of a past that refuses to die. And as reality sets in, so does the pain of what comes next. The separation isn't just emotional, it's structural. The law divides what love once united. The home, the money, the children, the future. Everything reduced to numbers and signatures. He watches as his efforts, his years, his sacrifices are divided like property. But she walks away with a new beginning, and he walks away with what's left. People tell him he'll be fine, that men recover, that time heals. But what they don't understand is that this isn't just heartbreak. It's disintegration, the collapse of identity, the death of purpose. He's no longer a husband, no longer needed, just a man standing in the ruins of everything he thought would last forever. The silence after the collapse becomes its own kind of punishment. There's no one left to blame, no one left to convince. Just the echo of his own reflection staring back at him, demanding to know how it all fell apart. This is the part no one prepares a man for, the aftermath, where the world keeps moving, but he is stuck in the debris of what used to be his life. The paperwork is done, the house is gone, the bed is empty, and yet the pain doesn't end. It mutates. It grows quieter, colder, sharper. He starts to see things he couldn't before. How blind he was. How much of himself he gave away in the name of love. How much he tolerated just to keep the illusion alive. He realizes that while she was slowly detaching, he was fighting to preserve something that no longer existed. And now that it's gone, he's left with a truth too heavy to escape. He wasn't protecting love. He was protecting his identity. Every sacrifice, every compromise, every apology was a desperate attempt to hold onto a role that defined his worth. Without her, he is forced to face the hollow space inside, the one he kept filled with purpose, with responsibility, with her approval. And it's in that emptiness that he finally sees the cruel symmetry. She found freedom in leaving, but he found nothing in staying. He was the builder, the provider, the constant. But the world doesn't reward constancy. It replaces it. He starts to notice the whispers around him, friends fading away, family giving advice, colleagues pretending not to see the exhaustion in his eyes. Everyone tells him to move on, but no one understands that moving on isn't healing, it's erasure. Every new day feels like a betrayal of what once was. Every smile feels like lying to himself. He carries regret like a scar across his chest, invisible but always burning. He regrets not noticing the distance sooner, not speaking up, not letting go when love had already left. But beneath that regret is something darker, the realization that even if he could go back, he wouldn't know how to save it. Because the truth is brutal. Love doesn't die because of one mistake. It dies from the slow decay of being unseen. And now, he's the one left invisible, haunted by the reflection of the man he used to be. When he steps back into the world, he expects understanding, maybe even quiet sympathy. But the world doesn't look at him the same way. Divorce reshapes how people see a man. Some pity him, others avoid him. A few judge him in silence, assuming he must have done something wrong. The warmth once extended to him as a husband now turns cold, indifferent. Friends he shared with her quietly drift to her side. Family members choose distance over discomfort, and even his closest confidants don't know what to say anymore. Society was built to comfort the broken woman, but it was never designed to hold the broken man. He becomes a shadow in his own circle, tolerated but no longer trusted, respected but no longer admired. When a woman leaves, she's seen as brave, reclaiming herself, finding freedom, beginning anew. When a man loses her, he's seen as a failure. The narrative is simple. He couldn't keep her. He must have lacked something. Love, attention, understanding, something. The world doesn't care that he gave everything. It only sees that he was left behind. He scrolls through social media and sees her smiling, glowing, reborn. The comments celebrate her strength, her independence, her new life. No one wonders what it took from him to make that life possible. He sits in the quiet corners of restaurants, coffee shops, empty rooms, and feels the eyes of others, not with compassion, but curiosity, as though they're studying the anatomy of loss. And slowly, something inside him changes. He stops talking about it. He stops explaining. He learns to wear composure like armor, to say he's fine when he isn't, to joke about starting over when all he wants is silence. Because in this world, a man's grief is not poetic, it's inconvenient. People tell him to get back out there, to date, to distract himself, to fill the void with motion. But he knows that what he lost cannot be replaced. It wasn't just a woman, it was the mirror that reflected his worth. Now he looks into the social mirror and sees only fragments. A man who failed, a man who lost, a man who, in a world that worships resilience, has forgotten how to be human. And that's when he understands, society doesn't destroy men after divorce. It simply forgets them. There comes a point when the silence no longer hurts. It just becomes who he is. The man he used to be, the husband, the protector, the anchor, fades into something unrecognizable. What remains is a hollow outline, a man who wakes, works, eats, sleeps, but feels nothing in between. The routines survive, but meaning doesn't. He used to know his purpose, to build, to provide, to love. Now those instincts have nowhere to go. They echo inside him like a call unanswered. The loss becomes less about her and more about himself, the parts of him that died trying to hold her love. He tries to rediscover who he was before her, but that man is gone too. Time and devotion erased him. He looks for fragments. The music he once loved, the hobbies he abandoned, the laughter he forgot. But even those things feel foreign now. Divorce doesn't just end a relationship, it rewrites identity. Every choice he made was tied to her. Every plan intertwined with the idea of them. Without her, every direction feels meaningless. He becomes quieter, more withdrawn, not out of sadness anymore, but resignation. He realizes how much of his masculinity was built on being needed, how his worth was measured by what he could give, not who he truly was. And now, stripped of that role, he faces the void, the terrifying question of who he is when there is no one left to protect, to love, to fight for. Some nights, he feels fragments of his old self trying to resurface, flashes of confidence, moments of laughter, a hint of peace. But they fade quickly, swallowed by the stillness. He begins to see how men disappear after divorce, not in body, but in spirit. They drift through life half awake, haunted by ghosts of their former purpose. Some bury themselves in work, some drown in distractions, some chase new women, hoping to find themselves reflected in another pair of eyes. But it never works, because what they're searching for isn't love, it's identity. And identity, once lost to love, doesn't return easily. He is no longer who he was, and not yet who he might become. He lives in between, the man before love and the man after loss. A ghost of both, a stranger to himself. And that is the quiet tragedy no one sees, that sometimes, after divorce, a man doesn't just lose his partner, he loses the very language of who he is. In the end, what remains is silence, not the silence of grief, but the silence of truth. A man learns that love, no matter how deep, was never a guarantee of belonging. He learns that devotion cannot protect him, that sacrifice cannot save him, and that sometimes, losing everything is the only way to see what was real. The world told him to be strong, but strength was never the answer. It only delayed the breaking. It only made the fall quieter. Now he understands what no one ever told him. That men don't just lose more after divorce because of money, or law, or sympathy. They lose more because they built their entire existence on something that was never theirs to own. They gave love the weight of identity, and when love left, it took everything with it. But in the ruins, there is a strange kind of clarity. He begins to see that what he called loss was, in truth, an unveiling. The illusion is gone. The roles are gone. The expectations gone. All that remains is him, bare, unadorned, uncertain, but real. For the first time in years, there is no one to impress, no one to protect, no one to save. And in that emptiness, a small flicker of peace begins to form. Not joy, not relief, just peace. The quiet acceptance that pain is not punishment, but passage. That to lose is to be forced into truth. That love was never meant to complete him, only to reveal what he could not face alone. He sees now that he didn't lose more because he was weak, but because he gave more, because he believed deeper, because he was never taught how to keep a piece of himself untouched. The world will forget him, but that no longer matters. What matters is what he remembers. The sound of her laughter, the echo of his promises, the collapse of everything he thought permanent. And somewhere in that silence, he finally understands. You can lose everything and still find something sacred in what remains. The truth doesn't comfort. It doesn't heal. It just waits. And when it comes, it whispers the only thing that ever mattered. You were never meant to keep her. You were meant to find yourself when she left.